I found that there's a general misconception where love is concerned. Love is not at all what people think it is. And I'm just discovering that now. What most people consider to be love is very different than what the true definition is. Now, mind you, I understand that the concept of love is complicated. It's not your typical, it has one definition, right? But I'm going to tell you what love is not. So, what most of you see in someone else, you see a compatibility between you and another person. And if that other person happens to also find you compatible or attractive, they will do what they can to attempt to please you and feed your ego. This is where the definition between love deviates from what people understand it to be. Because most people conceive of love as someone who will feed their ego and make them feel good. And they consider that to be love. That is not what love is. That's an infatuation. Let me explain to you what happens in an infatuation. Once the person that was feeding your ego stops doing that regularly, you get frustrated. And then you tend to look in other places for someone to feed that ego. Is that comprehending there? Because what you are perceiving to be love, in fact, is just your heart saying, oh my goodness, this person appreciates me. But what you don't understand is that feeds a part of you that you don't really understand, because you've never looked at your ego. You've never looked at that dark part of you. And when your dark side is invested in another person, that is not a true from the heart feeling. Now, I'm not saying that you give up who you are for someone else. I'm not saying that you must love other people completely unconditionally. That's not rational and that's not realistic, okay? There are 3 types of love. And I'm going to start with the most basic, egocentric, okay? This is what I call NPC love, or non-player character love. And that's what I just described to you, basically. It is an egoistic, narcissistic way of approaching love and life and a partner. So what that person is doing is they're looking to feed that ego. And many of these people are narcissists. They are looking for empaths, because empaths tend to see the best in people, and whether you've got flaws or not, they want to help you. They're going to see that you've been hurt in your past, and they're going to try and help you, okay? And narcissists will love bomb the empath in the beginning in order to get them to fall in love. This is the feeding the ego thing. Okay, not to say that empaths are NPCs, but they can fall for NPC ways of drawing you in it's like a spell for some people. And narcissists, they feed off of that energy that the empath will feed them. But once the empath realizes that the narcissist has no intentions of improving themselves or making it better, making the relationship better, most of the time narcissists don't even want to look at their issues. Like, they want to point fingers, but they don't ever want to look at themselves. That's a big red flag. If somebody is doing this over and over and over to you, that's a red flag that you got a narcissist on your hands. And let me make this very clear, because a lot of people don't do this. Empaths, because generally empaths were raised by narcissists or had some sort of narcissistic abuse in their lifetime, okay? And this is how they became an empath, because they learned to sense what other people were feeling before they actually came out and told you what they were feeling. They did that as a self-protection thing. And yet they were consistently mentally abused to the point where they felt like they had to take care of their abuser. This is like the syndrome, what do they call it? The Stockholm syndrome. That's what I'm looking for. This is when your captor, like if you're kidnapped, your captor abuses you, but makes you dependent on them, right? So you tend to try and appease your captor. Well, in this case, a lot of times it was a parent that was narcissistic. And what are you going to do? You're a child. You can't just leave. So you learn to adapt. And that's how empaths are born, okay? It's also how narcissists are born. It depends on your personality type. Narcissists can come from narcissists and very often do. But empaths tend to come from that environment as well. So you have two sides of this coin, right? And they play off of each other. Narcissists love empaths. So to get back to the NPC part of this, narcissists are NPCs for the most part. And empaths do have some narcissistic traits because they came from that environment. Okay? So they are susceptible to the same kinds of love bombing and whatnot that narcissists do and are also susceptible to. All right, so you can have an empath or a person who's aware, or even a chosen, that gets into a relationship like this and stays there because they think they can fix it. And they will not come to the understanding, to the enlightenment, that they cannot fix that situation, that the narcissist has to do the work. And generally, the narcissist doesn't want to do the work. They don't want to look at their problems. And they're just not rational about it. And it eventually comes down to the time where the empath grows to a point where they know that they have to draw the line and that relationship's really not going to go anywhere. Because you can't have a relationship if both people don't want to grow into it. You both have to work on that. So the second kind of love is soulmate love. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions a little bit here about what a soulmate is exactly. Now, a soulmate can be anybody who is truly, truly compatible with you, but not necessarily your perfect fit, okay? Most marriages, I would say, out there, the ones that have lasted years and years especially, those people are generally soulmates. And that just means that the compatibility there is long lasting. And that is a truer form of love. That is not the NPC narcissistic love. That is a true form of love, a working relationship. And there are many soulmates for each person. Okay? So you can have a love relationship with a soulmate. But there's one step higher. And that is very, very rare. So I'm talking about twin flame love. So there's something about twin flame love. And let me explain first what twin flame love is. Before you came to this 3D realm, your soul was a whole being, like the angels, for instance. Okay? The angels were androgynous. They were male and female. We actually know that from scripture, from Adam. Adam was created as a golem. Most of you probably don't know what a golem is, but it's essentially an entity that was made from clay or dirt, earth, and then a spirit was breathed into it. Now, this can be used for good or for bad. Most people just think, oh my gosh, that's witchcraft. Well, if you consider God to be a witch, I guess so. So, this is what happened when Adam was created. He made a golem and he breathed life into it. So, but Adam was created just as the angelics were. In other words, he was androgynous. He was both male and female. This is what our souls are. They are a whole entity. There's no separation. There's only separation in this world. Okay? Once you go back to the ether realm, then you get to be again with your soulmate. If you find them in this realm, you're pretty dang lucky. You are pretty dang lucky to find your soul. Not your soulmate, your twin flame. So if you find your twin flame in this lifetime, it is very, very rare. You only have one. You only have one. And with as many people as there are, they will be led to you at some point, but you have to be healed enough to accept them. And you may find them and they may go another way for a while and then come back because you're not healed and you're not ready for them. The deal with true love is that you have to be healed. You have to be internally healed from your wounds in order to accept your twin flame. That is true love. But the basis to it, that healing that you have to do, that's called self-love. And I'm not talking about your ego here. I'm talking about truly loving yourself for who you are, who you were born to be, your soul, your spirit. Once you learn to do that, you are no longer looking for love for somebody to feed your ego. You are looking for something true and worthy of you. Now, mind you, a soulmate will do if you cannot find your twin flame, which is very, very rare to find a twin flame. There are soulmates out there, though. Understand, love, true, real love is extremely rare. And the next time that you're falling for someone, remember to think about, why am I falling for this person? Are they just feeding my ego? Or is this really a love? Watch for all those red flags, because the narcissists have lots of them. You just have to know what to look for.